Hello and welcome in. Live chat for this week's Rocket Mortgage Classic. We're headed to Detroit. We're rocking and rolling. We're taking off. We're doing all those puns and all those interesting things. And the next hour, approximately, is your time. Questions, concerns, comments, throw them in the chat. I'll try to get through as many as I can, and I'll do my best to answer them objectively, hopefully with data, hopefully with logic, hopefully with reason. Go ahead and fire away on those comments. Let's just do the weather thing, right? I like to just do the weather thing at the start. And then when the inevitable questions come about whether there is a weather wave advantage, everybody in the chat can say, just go to the start of the show. He covered it already. Okay. So this is what I see. This is Thursday right here, where there's a little bit of wind kicking up from maybe 5 miles an hour to 11 miles an hour in the afternoon. There is a chance of Friday afternoon thunderstorms, though there is not a lot of actual precipitation being predicted. And then Saturday and Sunday, I mean, honestly, there's rain in the forecast all week long. But really, if we're talking about wave advantages, we're looking more at Thursday and Friday. If you put me to it right now, I think Thursday morning, Friday afternoon might be a little bit better. If they do get those thunderstorms on Friday afternoon, if it's actual thunderstorms like light thunder and lightning, they're going to stop play. And if they get an opportunity to come out in softer conditions, I think that maybe that is the side that you want to be on. I do not think it is super actionable. The other thing that's probably more interesting about the weather is that, poured there on Monday, Tuesday, I can't remember. They got like nearly an inch of rain. And I think this golf course is going to be fairly receptive. We heard Tony Finau say you might have to get the 30 under par, even with 4 inches of thick rough. It's not real. I shouldn't even say 4 inches long rough, not even super thick. I think there's a path to very, very low scoring this week. Okay. That's the weather conversation. Jake says, is the Mexico Open at Vedanta a similar course comparison to Detroit Golf Club? I think broadly, no. I think maybe the only thing that you would consider would be both you can be pretty loose off the tee, is the way that I'll put it. Distance over accuracy around maybe Mexico and Detroit Golf Club, I think statistically probably looks right. Well, let's see. Hold on. How much data do we have on Vedanta? So let's see. Yeah, kind of similar, right? Distance for Vedanta is 27th, which means there's 26 courses in which which driving distance is more important. Driving accuracy is 28th. If we go back to Detroit Golf Club for this week, so 27 and 28, this is 24 and 31. So that's the only place that I would say these golf courses are similar. It's from like a statistical standpoint, not really from a lot of other aspects. Scott says, who are the chalky plays and pivot plays in the 7K range? Okay, so that's available right here. This is everything that you see from here on out is from my website, RickRunGood.com. Giant golf database designed for fantasy and betting, and you should sign up for it. So here are the projected ownerships on the cheat sheet. So who are the popular and chalky plays and pivot plays in the 7K range? So if we just sort this by the guys in the 7K range and we look at who's going to eat up, who is likely to eat up the ownership, you've got Aaron Ryan about 15%, JJ Spawn at 14.5%, Doug Gim at 12%. Those are the only three golfers in the 7K range. No, I lied. Carson Young and Kevin Yu at the bottom are just over double digits. So there's about 5 guys who are projecting like 10% and higher. So I think the natural pivot off of Aaron Rye is probably Taylor Moore. I do not like the way Taylor Moore has been playing, but he is a very, very talented golfer. I'm buying him long-term. He's a stout player. He finished 6th here last year. Saw a lot of him at the PGA Championship, heard the way he was working on the range. We were set up right next to him. Love the way that he puts it all together. Hasn't played well, but again, that 6th here last year. The JJ Spawn pivot is probably like, and maybe even Doug Gim is probably just Taylor Pendrith. Again, another guy who's not playing great right now, but from a course fit perspective, there is probably not another golf course on the PGA Tour schedule that is as good as Detroit Golf Club for Taylor Pendrith. He finished 2nd here last year. So just kind of a course fit play. And then if you need to pivot out of the bottom, Dylan Wu, I suppose, is always kind of a little underappreciated. Matt Wallace, less than 1% and has 2 12th place finishes or better here in the 2 trips. So those would probably be the places that I would go there. Scott, can we go back to Ches this week? I don't find that to be particularly necessary. What we knew about Ches is that TPC River Highlands was probably, if not one of the best courses on the PGA Tour schedule for him. This is completely different, right? The other thing that we saw last week, and we even saw the regression on Sunday where he lost 3 strokes putting, is he had one of the best putting weeks of his career. He at one point he had gained 9 strokes putting, which would have been through 3 rounds, which would have been by far the best tournament of his career. So you're basically saying go to a much worse golf course for you and try to putt the lights out again, which historically is probably not going to happen. Hope you're doing well. I heard you get your data from ShotLink. How did you manage that? Yes, I have a deal with the PGA Tour. I've had it for the last handful of years. It's a very good relationship. So it's all very official and all comes in shot by shot. Very, very good. Nathan says, good afternoon, Rick. What are your thoughts on Højgaard? Been burned when putting him in my lineups. Yeah. So let's see if we can pull him up here. Nikolai is the Højgaard we're looking at this time around. So back-to-back missed cuts. A little bit concerning, right? You know, he loses 2 strokes on approach at the PGA. I don't care so much about that. Loses 5.5 on approach at the Memorial. I care about that. And then loses 2 more on approach and 3.5 in total ball striking at the Canadian Open. I care about that. So we are now pretty far removed from these elite approach weeks that we've seen over the course of his European Tour play, and then kind of coming over and playing a little bit on the PGA Tour. So I would proceed very much with caution here because I do not think that he is currently in the form that we would normally see out of these golfers. When you do the course stats, is it for every player and year for that course in your database, or does it only go back to a certain amount of years or just the top 40 or whatever? No. So it is, so in an ideal situation, it is 8 years of every player. I think one of the inherent flaws of when you see like, oh, well, 14 out of the last 18 winners have done X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. They won, right? Like whatever. I don't care about that. I also care about the guy who finished 32nd and all that. So it is every player, and it's 8 years if we have it. Now, obviously Detroit Golf Club this week, there's only 4 years of data for. So not going to be able to do the full 8 years there, but that would be the ideal scenario. There is actually a super chat here, which is never required. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much, BVB. Says, have you heard anything on a Tom Kim injury, and what's your take on him? No, candidly, I have not heard anything about a Tom Kim injury. If someone wants to link me to something, that'd be great. But if you take a look at kind of statistically what he's been up to, I think that this is a fairly good trajectory. He has not putted well. So I think I said this to Andy on Tuesday. Basically, 6 months ago, I would have described Tom Kim as a accurate but short driver of the golf ball who has elite approach upside and can get hot with the putter. 2 of those things are still true right now. Short, accurate, and upside of being an elite approach player. You're seeing that in his last 2 starts. You're seeing that he's kind of back to hitting the ball really, really well. What we're not seeing is that hot putter, which I generally think is coming. Quite honestly, I mean, he gained 3 strokes at the US Open. He is not that far removed, and it's the one statistic in which that it can bounce back quite quickly. I don't think this is particularly a great spot for him, but I'm probably more warm on Tom Kim than most are. So again, appreciate the super chat. Never required, but much appreciated. What are some of the things you learned this year with designated events, playing season-long fantasy golf and one and dones? Thank you, Rick. Yeah. So what I've learned a lot that, I mean, these designated events are such outrageous amounts of money, number one. So for one and dones, they're obviously critical, and you can be much worse and much more inconsistent over the course of a year, as long as you are playing the designated events well, if you're getting results there. So there's just a higher leverage spot for the designated events. I think in season-long fantasy, there's one inherent flaw to season-long fantasy golf. And then I think there are a couple of things that probably need to be tweaked. The inherent flaw is with fantasy point scoring. There is not another sport that I can think of really in which they would play half the game and not allow half the players to move on, right? Imagine if at halftime, LeBron had scored only 8 points and they said, sorry, that's not good enough. You're not going to be able to play the second half. And then you don't even have the opportunity for fantasy points for literally half the game. That's the inherent flaw. Cuts are the inherent flaw in season-long fantasy golf, because the problem is that you could have a very, very good 5 of 6 team and lose to a very mediocre 6 of 6 team, which I don't think is what we want. I don't think that's what's good for the industry. As far as designated events go, I think that expanding rosters. So the way that we've been doing it is you have to start 6 and you have a roster of 12. And with the designated events and undesignated events, you essentially almost need 2 rosters, right? Because guys are playing not exclusively those types of events, but a lot of them. So you're churning some of these guys that you might want to play in designated events for guys that are not playing in designated events. I think that's bad for the industry. So what I would probably do is I'd probably expand the rosters to like 18. I would as much as I don't love it, I wanted to create and have a fantasy scoring system. I honestly do think that money is probably a better way to do it, because if you did have a very good 5 of 6 with the winner, you could still very easily beat a mediocre 6 of 6 team because the payouts are so top heavy. The other thing, last thought on this, because I know people are probably not here for the way my brain works on season-long fantasy golf. I cannot remember who sent this to me, but I really liked the idea and I've been thinking about it a lot, is almost doing it the way that they do like Ryder Cup or President's Cup singles, or like in the NCAA, where basically I would start 5 guys, slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You would start 5 guys, slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they would play against each other. So if I have Tom Kim and you have, Jason Day, and Jason Day wins, boom, that's 1 point for you. That way, like one miscut by your guy on your team is not super detrimental. It is just basically creating 5 matchups where you get points for each one, and a miscut, you might lose that match, but you're not going to just lose the entire matchup because of it. I think that is also a very, very good way to do it. You touched on Taylor Moore earlier in the week, but haven't heard anything since. Yeah, I think I just kind of mentioned him again. So, that's Ryan Moore. This guy's really good. Okay. And he was playing great golf before the win, continued to play decent golf after that, and it's kind of hit the skids a little bit. Now, it has not been nearly as good in the ball striking categories, and then he's kind of hemorrhaging with the flat stick, which is a really, really bad combination. But I again love the talent here. Have been impressed with him the entire season. I'd be willing to buy low on someone like Taylor Moore, who has legitimate winning upside. And then here's that event from last year where he gained 8.5 strokes ball striking at Detroit Golf Club and was absolutely phenomenal. So really, really, like, I buy Taylor Moore, right? Like give me the next 5 years of Taylor Moore. I'm interested to see what he turns into. Dylan Wu or Sam Bennett? That's pretty interesting. It's probably still Bennett. I don't know though. I could run this through. So there's a head-to-head matchup tool. Let's just do this. Dylan Wu versus Sam Bennett. And actually, this might be a little bit skewed because we might have to go short term because Bennett doesn't have a ton of rounds. So let's go last 24 rounds of Dylan Wu versus Sam Bennett and see what the model says. Dylan Wu, the Dylan Wu side. He wins at about 70% of the time, a 4-round matchup. So still Wu. Bennett's exciting though. For far back into one and done, is Kirk a good option to make up some ground? So Chris Kirk has missed 3 cuts in a row, but his history around this place is really good. I think you'd have to be very far back and not have a lot of options to go with someone like Chris Kirk. You know, if you just kind of look at I would probably play Alex Smalley before I played Chris Kirk. I'd probably play Ludwig before I played Chris Kirk. I might even play Benny On before I play Chris Kirk. So those would be the guys that I would put him around. I think the course history is really interesting, though I don't think this is a golf course that is like super, super sticky, right? You're just going to have to make a bunch of birdies. There's not a whole lot of nuance around Detroit Golf Club. I don't think it is like an Augusta National level of stickiness or anything like that. So I do knock him a bit for the course history on that side of things. Hey, Rick, best content on YouTube for sure. Thank you. Steven Yeager, does he have the guts to break through? Seems like he has popped at Birdie Fest. Well, remember, Steven Yeager's was a very accomplished Korn Ferry Tour player, right? That's how he got his card. And that Korn Ferry Tour like you just have to go low like that. Like you are obligated to just pile up birdies. Outside the miscut at the RBC Heritage, he's been very, very good, right? He's been piling up these really good finishes. I thought I mentioned it, or maybe I didn't, but so Jaeger lost 7.5 strokes putting on Sunday last week. Well, that he was putting with his wedge for like the last 11 holes or something like that. So my point, I think I wrote in my newsletter, like there's an obvious bounce back coming because that was like the worst putting performance of the year. Yeah. Of the season. Here it is by a full stroke. Shout out to Davis Riley, who has the other worst one with, I assume, with a putter the entire time. So yeah, I think there's a bounce back coming for Jaeger here. This is a free newsletter I send out every week. RickRunGood.com/newsletter. You should just sign up for it. It's just a bunch of data stuff. Can you do a deep dive on Sam Stevens? And do you have any nuggets on Gordon Sargent? I don't really have any nuggets outside the fact that I watched with the US Open and the kid is just, it's sickening. He just crushes the ball. He's very, very raw. He crushes. I just like, it's very impressive to watch. But he's very, very raw. He'll be good in a couple of years. Sam Stevens, I like as well. The problem is this category right here where he loses multiple strokes putting basically every single week, which, you know, if you go back and look at the course key stats, strokes gained putting is one of the highest correlated stats to success at Detroit Golf Club, which makes a lot of sense because when you get into an event that might need 25, if you listen to Tony Finau, 30 under par to win, then you are going to have to make putts. And outside of Texas, he doesn't putt very well. Or the West Coast. Maybe he's like a West Coast POA and he's a Texas guy, so he putts well in Texas. I don't know. I don't think he's a very good putter. The stats bear that out. Suh or Bezadenhout? It's probably Justin Suh, but I'm not super happy about that. The positive is that he's a very good putter. The negative is that he is kind of reliant on the putter. However, weeks like this, I tend to think it's a little bit okay. And you start looking at what he does off the tee. I think he can kind of bomb it around here, although he's not actually all that inaccurate. He's more accurate than he is long. I think that this is a week where putting is important enough that the answer to that is still probably Justin Suh. Rick, near the top of the one and done, used almost all the studs with the likes of JT Finau and Hideki for me. Curious out of those three who you would save for the playoffs, if any. Just trying to think where, like JT's been good at TPC Southwind, right? So you could play JT at Southwind. Hideki, could you roll Hideki out at Olympia Fields? That would kind of be interesting. I'm trying to think if he'll play anywhere else before then. Well, obviously he'll play like the Open and stuff like that, but I'm just trying to think. So I think you probably just roll Finau this week, right? Finau also doesn't even have the Northern Trust anymore, right? That event that he won last year, that doesn't even exist anymore. So, or was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. At a loss on one and done, just outside the top 10. Okay, so that's pretty good. Still have Ricky, but worth saving for the Open. And you make 2 picks at the Open. Yes. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, you're kind of in a sticky spot here. So if you're just outside the top 10, if you can see how many people ahead of you have used Ricky Fowler, that'd be interesting, but he's going to be by far the most popular pick this week. So if a lot of people ahead of you still have Ricky, I don't think you can use him. But if only half the people ahead of you have him available, you can play Ricky, because even if half of those people play him, you're okay. But I do like saving him for either the Scottish or the Open Championship, especially because you have to pick 2 at the majors. So then if you don't go with Ricky, so if you find out that everybody ahead of you has Ricky available, your options are basically Eckroat or Tom Kim. I would probably go Tom Kim here. I don't think it's Tom obviously won the Wyndham, but I don't think that is like strong enough, 1 start, 1 win or whatever it is to be saving a guy somewhere. Hey, Rick, heading to the tourney on Friday, hoping to scoop one of those Tony bobbleheads. How does Ben Griffin look as a lower priced option? So 2 things about the bobbleheads. A couple things about the bobbleheads. I love bobbleheads. I used to collect a lot of bobbleheads, and I've gotten away from that. It's like I hate knickknacks, like this stuff behind me. That's like I hate having like knickknacks, but bobbleheads are different. I freaking love bobbleheads. The problem, Paul, I think they're only giving them out on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I believe that's what I read. First 1,000 fans on Tuesday, first 1,000 fans on Wednesday. So I do not think you're going to get one. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you get one. If anybody has an extra, I will pay you for it. I'll give you a subscription to RickRunGood.com. I'll trade you for it. I'll do whatever. I would like to acquire one, which would be very, very cool. How does Ben Griffin look as a low-priced option? Ben Griffin, TikTok star. I would say he looks pretty bad. You know, he's missed 6 out of his last 7 cuts, though none of them are all that bad. He's like living around the cut line. He really is. And even in 5 in a row, he's been a positive approach player. Not a lot, but it's hard to be a positive approach player in 5 straight and lose and miss the cut in 4 of them. So this looks like a stat profile that I'm concerned about. Oh, man, this is bizarre. This is actually a very bizarre profile. You're gaining on approach, but you're not making the cut. You're not putting well enough. You're losing around the green. I don't really care about that. You're not driving it particularly well. You're hovering around the cut line. No, I don't know where he's going to find these strokes to like fly up the board. Maybe he finds a couple strokes and makes the cut, because I don't think he should have probably missed all of these cuts. It's probably a little unlucky that he did, but I don't think it's Ben. I think we can probably find some other options here. Can you please rank the following players? So I don't know for what, but I would rank them probably in the order that you have them. Maybe Gimwoo, Bramlett, Yu is probably the way that I would go. Can you run a model heavily based around strokes gained approach from 100 to 125, strokes gained putting, strokes gained off the tee, and then strokes gained easy courses and course history? Kevin knows what he's doing, right? So Kevin's going to get me to go over to RickRunGood.com and put this model in. So a couple of items here. There are currently six different slates that are available right now on the custom model. So let's do this. Let's do strokes gained. All right, let me get my head out of the way here. Strokes gained. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have 5 things. I'm just gonna put 20 on each one of these. Okay. So let's do approach from 100 to 125 for 20. We are going to do strokes gained putting. Well, I got to get a little bit of. Let's do. There's a couple ways we could do that. So let's do strokes gained putting last 24, just like hot putters. Took a little bit of liberty there, Kevin. Strokes gained off the tee. Okay, let's say strokes gained off. Let's just say last 24 as well. We'll keep it consistent. Strokes gained easy courses. Okay, 20 there, and then course history for Detroit Golf Club, 20 there. Our number one golfer, Kevin. Oh boy, Keegan Bradley. Sure. Keegan Bradley. Sung Jae, Tom Kim. I'll zoom in so you guys can see a little bit better. Cam Davis, Ricky Fowler, Brandon Wu, Tony Finau, Adam Hadwin, Taylor Moore, Hideki Matsuyama. Pretty cool. Thanks, Kevin. See you around. One and done help. Thanks. I'm in third, chasing 5 mil. Guy in first has used Fowler. That's good. Finau, he will probably has used Fowler, and Finau will probably use JT. Second has most available. I have Tony, Keegan. Yeah, you should just run Fowler out. I mean, we haven't really done a deep dive on Fowler, but quite honestly, I think if you're here, you've probably realized what Ricky Fowler has been up to, and it's been nothing short of splendid. 4 straight top 15 finishes. He has, missed the cut at the PGA, had 3 more top 15s before that, 4 more if you count the PGA Championship and get rid of the match play. He is by far the best player in this field over the last 36 rounds. He's gaining 1.8 strokes per round over the last 36. Nobody else is even remotely close to that. He's doing it in a very sustainable way. Ricky's been great. Do you like Eckroat this week? Yeah. So Eckroat is the second best player in this field over the last 36 rounds. Does that surprise you? Eckroat's right between Ricky Fowler and Hideki Matsuyama. The problem for fantasy purposes is that he's going to be pretty darn popular, 21%. So you have to kind of decide what you're taking a stand on. Do you want to be part of the 21% that play Austin Eckroat? If you do, you cannot start Ricky Eckroat. You cannot. You're just, unless you're going to find 4 other guys who are like sub 4%, because that is just not going to work. I've answered a couple of these, which is okay. Which cam is the right cam this week? Wow, good question. So probably, I was thinking Carson Young. My brain malfunctioned there. So how many cams are in this field? Obviously Davis, Champ, and Percy. Oh, then it's Davis. He has been very, very good for a couple of rounds recently, and then kind of bad for most of them. But I said this 2 years ago. I probably said it last year, and I'll say it again. If you could design a golf course for Cam Davis, it would look a lot like Detroit Golf Club. That is just the go-to fact about Cam Davis. I think he played well on Thursday and Sunday last week, played well on Sunday at the PGA Championship. Not much great stuff in between there. Look at his course history. A win in 2021, T14 last year, missed 2 cuts prior to that, but do we really care? Who is your big high risk, high reward player? Ooh, interesting. Okay. I would say the answer to that, high risk, high reward. Well, actually, let's do this with some data, right? So let's go to strokes gain distribution over the last 36 rounds, sort by salary. Now, what we're looking for are guys that do not gain strokes to the field frequently or as frequently as their peers, but when they do, they gain a ton. So statistically, without knowing anything about last week, the first name that pops off the list is Keegan Bradley. Keegan only gains strokes to the field 58% of the time, compared to Sungjae, who's 63, Hideki, who's nearly 70, Finau, who's 72. But when he gains 5 or more strokes to the field, basically more than anyone. I think Sungjae would also fit that criteria. I think that also like Justin Suh or Davis Riley would fit that criteria. Okay. So that's a pretty cool way to look at it. I like that. I lost my spot. Give me 1 second. Crap. Can you do a model on the last 24 rounds of why my dad left me and never came back? Yeah, but I'm going to need some weights. So, send in some weights on like financial situation. Is there a chance that he had another family anywhere? Were you like a good kid, or did you drive him crazy? Like send me some of that and we'll throw it in the model. See what we can find. Can you run a custom model 100% on, opportunities plus gains? Yeah. So I'll just do it right here on the power rankings. So last 36 rounds, opportunities plus gain. This is birdie putts within inside of 10 feet. So Steven Yeager, number 1, Hideki, Sungjae, Kevin Yu, Justin Thomas, Keegan Bradley. Can you sort by best 5 putters on this grass type in the last 5 years? See, these are the smart. These people know how to manipulate the live chat into getting the paywall stuff, which is, listen, I appreciate it. So back to 2018. You got to be a little bit careful here because this is technically a bent POA mix, and not all POA is the same, obviously, and trying to figure out the hybrid and the strains and the percentages can be a little bit of a fool's errand. But since you are asking, I will give it to you. I've got to make these a little bit easier to read here. So, oh boy. I am such an idiot. Okay. So I would say it is, with decent sample sizes, MJ Duffy, Bo Hostler, Mark Hubbard, Matt Wallace, Webb Simpson. Again, I'd be very, very careful with that, and I'll clean those names up so they're easier to read. Hey, Rick, I qualified for the DK Championship. Congrats. I need to finish 150 out of the 30 against the next round. Can you give me the 3 safest golfers between 7,000 and 7,500? Yeah, so I'd go back to this tool to do that. I'd go to strokes gain distribution. I'd probably go like last 50 rounds, but just give me like PGA Tour rounds probably. And then we got to put some type of minimum in there. And then go down to 7,500 to 7,000 and look for golfers that gain like a stroke to the field frequently. So Neesmith, Thomas Dietrich, Nate Lashley, believe it or not, Mark Hubbard, Those would be the guys that stand out. Dylan Wu, 66%. Yeah, those would be the guys. Good luck. PA's very own Brandon Matthews has been real bad lately, but hits bombs. Is there ever time for him to make the cut? Is it this week? Got to do more than just bomb it, unfortunately. Out. I know Troy Merritt has been abysmal, but has great course history here. Yeah, so this is... I'd be very careful with course history. Think about what Detroit Golf Club asks of you, and think about what other golf courses ask of you. I don't think it is a very nuanced test. I think I said that earlier. And when you have a guy who has literally missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of his last 14 cuts, and 13 in a row as an individual, because the only cut that he has made was the Zurich Classic where he had a partner. That would be pretty darn concerning to me. One of those sneaky suspicions that Ryan Gerard can perform here. Excuse me. I hope so. I'm running him out in a couple of really crappy season-long fantasy teams that I have. So I'm not sure why you think that way. He just really hasn't been good anywhere, right? He doesn't drive it well. The ball striking's like mostly a negative. Outside of the Honda and the Puerto Rico, which was in March, we have not seen good play from Ryan Gerard. I hope that I am wrong, but that's kind of where we're at. Can you take a look at Harry Hall? Yep. Harry's one of the best short games on the tour, and he's just got to figure out the rest of it. Now, again, I think this week, if you can gain 6 or 7 strokes with the putter, Harry's interesting. I think there's a lot of spots that are going to be tough for Harry. This is probably on the better side of things for him. Given Birdie Fest equals less skill edge for the players, would you agree that disregarding the 10 to 20 shortest price golfers is plus EV more, given the price discrepancy remains the same as tougher events? I see where you're going. Where this is a fairly nuanced conversation. I don't think it's necessarily Birdie Fest as much as it is about the questions that the golf course asks of you. If the golf course asks a lot of different things of you and you're still going to make a bunch of birdies, I think that helps the better players. If the golf course is going to ask the same question or not reward certain aspects, or there's more luck involved and is a Birdie Fest, I think that's a different conversation. I see what you're saying. I would need to dive deeper into that and see if there is any correlation there. Interesting thought. I'll take a note and I'll circle back on it. All right, let's find some goodies here. Let's find some goodies. Good afternoon, Rick. Hope all is well in this field. Who are the lower owned good drive golfers? Okay. I think I can handle that one. So let's sort by driving accuracy and then kind of look at distance as well and find some guys. Okay. So like Austin Eckroat, well, he's not going to be very low owned, so I'll skip him. Sam Bennett, 290 plus off the tee, 70% of his fairways, 4% owned. So if we use him as a jumping off point, kind of gives us a little bit of like Tyler Duncan, gives us a little bit. Well, Tom Kim's not going to be very low owned. Finau's not going to be low owned. Hickok would kind of be up there. He doesn't do much else well, but I'm answering your question very specifically. Brent Grant. Yeah, Brent Grant's a great driver of the golf ball. He's going to be like 0.05% owned. Some of these guys I have talked about a lot this week, so I will pass those up. Like Kevin Yu, I think I'm pretty bullish on Kevin Yu. Nick Hardy, probably haven't talked about him in a couple of weeks, but I think he is doing better than like Davis Riley is. And I lump them together because they won the Zurich together, but we're starting to see a pretty decent profile from Nick Hardy again. Just like be a slight positive on approach, be a slight positive off the tee, and try to gain 3 strokes with the flat stick. That's kind of been his MO. Missed the cut here last year, and he did it by, well, he's pretty bad all over the yard. But I do think that Hardy is generally very generic, very general, trending in the right direction. Excuse me. I mean, a 200 person one and done that does skins. The skins pot is 1K. So I need an Adam Schenk type, super low owned, who can spike big time. So I'm assuming your skin is if you're the only guy, if you are solo with a winner, right? I'm assuming that's generally what they are. So you got to be the only person on him, or I guess I don't know if they split the skin. I don't know how it works, but probably the only person on it who can actually win. Lashley. Oh, how about Doug Gim? Can Doug Gim actually win? Is anybody going to play him in one and done? Let's say that you have to have won before to say that you can actually win. Lashley's been playing pretty decent golf. Now, this is a place he won, and it's his only win, and it was completely out. If you guys don't know the story, Lashley got into this event like Wednesday night. He was not even available on DraftKings. He was not even available on many sports books, and he went wire to wire and won this event by like 5 strokes. And just sports books just took all the money because he like wasn't even an option in most places. Look at the ball striking numbers, or look at the approach numbers, I guess I should say. +6, +6, +5 in 3 of his last 5. Positive in basically every start dating back to the Valspar. And he's won before. So I would say that's not a bad option. I'm trying to find guys who I think can actually win, which is kind of hard to find. How about, I mean, Hardy I guess wouldn't be that bad. Top of mind. Taylor Moore wouldn't be that bad. Top of mind. Good luck. Why no Bo Hostler talk this week? I think this play sets up well for him. Okay. Let's look. What does Bo do? Well, he's longish off the tee, right? And not very accurate. Okay. So that's fine. He is not very good with his wedges, which is probably some proximities that he's going to have to hit a lot from this week. He has lost 15 strokes on approach in his last 5 starts. He's very good around the greens, which is probably not going to be that important this week. And he's a positive putter. So I found 2 things that are good and like 2 or 2.5 that are pretty bad. So I don't think that this is a particularly great spot for him. He's played here all 4 years. His best finish is a T25. He has 2 missed cuts and a T69 as well. So unfortunately for friend of the pod, Bo Hostler, not sure this is the right spot for him. I golfed Welsher Golf Club yesterday, the only public Donald Ross course west of the Mississippi. Ooh, interesting. Who are your favorite designers to play? I mean, listen, Pete Dye's. I mean, I don't know why I end up getting on a lot of Dye courses. I think Nicholas is pretty overrated. I don't know if I'll get crushed for that. No, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. It's a good question. I'd have to think about that. I just end up playing a lot of Pete Dye courses. Taylor brings up Tom Hoagie, which I don't mind because he's right. Play hasn't been good, but he's a great wedge player. And we know he can fill it up. So you're kind of just buying low, hoping that you get a spike week from him, which we really haven't seen in a while. But I get this. And I think if you are looking for like a pivot somewhere, I think he's pretty interesting because we know he can win. We know that he is at least world-class at something that should be important this week, which is probably more than a lot of his peers can say. Best birdie makers below 7K. All right. So let's go to the fantasy tab. Let's just do like sort by birdies, right? Last 50 rounds under what? 7K? Oof. Might have to scroll. Ben Martin's the first guy under 7K. Vincent Norman. Oh, Vincent Norman Vincent Norman. I'll tell you what, if he can avoid some stupid stuff, this is like a great spot for Vincent Norman, right? Bombs it, makes a lot of birdies, can fill it up, he's like average on opportunities. We just got to avoid the stupid stuff. Just out of the money, use Ricky this week or hold him until a later event. Also have Homa. You should probably just play Homa and save Ricky for Scottish or the Open. Luke List or Sam Bennett, better upside? This question has to be, the answer has to be Sam Bennett, right? Like, I know that Luke List, maybe I'll do it by round. What he shot, I just clicked off of it, I think. Give me 1 second. I'm a very bad clicker. Hold on a second. I clicked off the page. Let me get back to it. I know Luke List, what did he do? Fire something outrageous on Sunday last week, right? So let's find Luke List because he just continues to reel people in, and I guess I get it. So he gains, oh boy. Oh, I thought it was even better. I thought did he just make a ton of birdies or something? What event am I thinking of? The last round at the Memorial where he gained 5 strokes to the field? Maybe it was Thursday at the Travelers where he gained 3.5 to the field. I mean, there was one day recently where he went nuts. Luke List, I cannot conceive could possibly putt well enough to do anything around here. Luke List has been pretty damn bad since he won Torrey 2 years ago, or I guess a year and a half ago. He's been miserable. And the putter is gone. It's always been gone. He's not driving it as well. Second shots are not as good outside. I mean, spiked at the Memorial, spiked at Riviera. And that was a T16 to T29. So if you're telling me I'm going to get career level, elite level approach weeks and a T16 out of it, I do not think that is upside. Sam Bennett's like a legit good golfer. So it has to be Sam Bennett, which means Luke List will probably win. Love the show, Rick. Thank you. Deep dive on Thomas Dietrich. Yeah. So I think he popped up when we were looking at some of these guys that like are always gaining to the field, right? So he's like fairly consistent. The tee to green numbers are generally pretty positive. You know, I've got the DP World Tour numbers in here as well. Which if you go back even further, his DP World Tour stuff is sick. You know, if you're not looking at somewhere that has the DP World Tour numbers, you're not getting this good start from May where he gained 10 strokes ball striking. So yeah, I think that in general, for the last year, he's been a very positive, consistent golfer. A little bit upside T8 at the Punta Cana event. Yeah, I've got him on a lot of season long teams, and it's been pretty fruitful. Finau and Smalley or Tom Kim and Bez? Like, this answer has to be Finau and Smalley, right? You're getting the favorite and a guy who is smashing against Tom Kim, who's like, okay, one of the top, 5 or 6 best players in this field, and Bez, who's like, who the hell knows, right? Look at what Smalley's doing. This is very, very good. I bet Alex Smalley this week. So between current form and Ricky, who hasn't won in a minute, is the win equity up top this week not what it normally is? Starting cards, lineups, kind of fair, right? I mean, so the top of the board is Finau, who is putting atrociously. Colin, who I don't believe this, but like you could argue is like kind of lost, but I think he's far from that. In fact, I bet him this week as well. Fowler, who will he win? Who knows? Homa, who's been struggling. JT, who's like kind of been struggling. It's not a bad call, Zach, that the win equity is probably further down the board. 2v2, would you rather have Sungjae and Hideki or Ludwig and Homa? Sungjae and Hideki. Would you weigh... Oh, I answered that one. I think that was actually a duplicate question. Morikawa Strawn in Ms. Watts 76 I don't know what that means, but I'll just use it as an opportunity to talk about Colin Morikawa, who I have bet this week, and I just think is like on the verge of a massive breakout. He hasn't even played that bad, but the discord around him is surprisingly negative. Best putter in the last 36 rounds. That's a pretty easy one. We'll just do PGA Tour and European Tour because those are the 2 strokes gained. ShotLink Measured tours. Justin Suh, Sam Ryder, Ches Reavie, Ben Taylor, Peter Malnati. Is Justin Thomas more likely to finish inside the top 10 or outside the top 20? Inside the top 20 or outside top 20? I think it's probably inside. I like what I saw. It's a pretty decent setup for him. One of the weakest fields he's played in quite some time. He gained like 7 strokes last week on approach, which is good to see. You got to get him chugging in that direction. Probably won't make enough putts to win, but he does not need to make a ton of putts to finish inside the top 20. Yes. Spoiler alert says, any merit to the rumor that Jaeger broke his putter and that's why he lost so many shots last week? Yeah, I think he was he was bellying a wedge for like his last 11 holes at least. For season long, we do a DK weekly contest and hand out points where you finish similar. Yeah, I don't mind that. I just don't like it's kind of the same problem of like, if you have a guy that misses the cut or 2 guys that miss the cut, it doesn't really matter what the rest of your team does, which is kind of crappy. Aberg versus Homa. Listen, I'm a big Aberg guy, but it's still Max Homa. The super chat was my original question, but I'm in Vegas next month for the first time. Top 3 restaurants. Very, very, I mean, listen, Vegas is like the food capital of the world. So there's a million options and very dependent on what you're interested in. Some of the best pizza in Vegas is at Good Pie. That's at the Arts District. There's a place at Resorts World called Crossroads. It's very good. And basically anything at the Wynn would work. Hardin. Actually, I think they pronounce it Jardin, which is silly. That would be good. The other thing you should do is David Williams, the poker player, go on his Twitter, and he probably has it pinned. He has like a restaurant Google Doc that he's always updating and adding things, and it's like very, very good. So you can find something that's in for your type of cuisine, because there's just obviously way too many options. On your course key stats page, how do you get the values and rankings for particular stats? So the short story of it, Tom, is take all of the stats for every single player for each season. Take all the results for every single player for each season. Compare those to one another. It's called a regression model. Find which types of players have had success at each golf course. Take the values, the correlation value that you get, and rank it to other courses. Because, for example, strokes gained approach is always going to be very, very valuable. Always. But is it the highest value course or is it the lowest value course? That matters. But even the lowest value course, it might be higher than the highest putting course, for example. So then you rank them, and this is what you get. How is your season-long fantasy team going with your industry peeps? You don't seem to talk about it much. It's going well. I talked about the flaws that I don't necessarily like about it, but we have a group chat, and that's mostly where we talk. I don't know if anybody cares about, like, I go back and forth on this. Like, do people care? Like, do I care about other people's fantasy league? And I think the answer is probably not. So I always think that nobody cares about ours. I can tweet out the link. My team stinks. My first and second rounder were Tom Kim and Colin Morikawa. So how do you think my season's going? Not great is how it's going. Took a miscut. Yes. If you are front running Matt, Ricky is probably the one and done selection. Thoughts on skipping the 10K range entirely? We kind of talked about this with the win equity question. The problem is the 9K range is very chalky, like Hideki Sungjae. So if you started there, you'd be getting 2 of the highest owned golfers on the slate, which I don't know if I love. So I don't know how unique it is going to make you. I actually think the best build is probably one of Finau, Colin, Homa. I like Colin, but you splitting hairs. then someone else in the 9K range. Actually, you could probably do, like, if you did Colin, Hideki, Smalley. I like that. And then you'd have to avoid Eckroat. You'd have to avoid Aaron Rye. But I think that's an interesting way to start. I just worry that the 9K range is very, very chalky. Thoughts on a first round leader? I mean, I can throw a dart. I don't know. I mean, so what I would do is go to strokes gain distribution, just do the PGA Tour last 36 rounds. Akshay is kind of, I mean, Keegan's still kind of interesting, right? I don't know. Keegan just way more frequently is the first round leader than like anybody else in the field. Or than like most guys on tour. Sung Jae is kind of interesting too, right? So when Sung Jae plays well, he plays really well. He gains 5 or more strokes to the field 11% of the time in the last 36. And I think the assumption is that he hasn't been playing all that well. So I think Sung Jae's pretty interesting. Other than that, I mean, you could just throw a dart at a lot of these guys. I bought the only bobblehead on eBay yesterday. Yeah, I looked. I didn't see it. So maybe there are some on eBay right now. Let's check. eBay, Tony Finau bobblehead. Tony Finau. How much is this going to cost me? Is this going to cost me like $100? There is one listed right now for $85. Buy it now. Can I show you this page? Should I show you this page? Yeah, I don't really care, right? $85 with $17 shipping. Get out of town. $17 shipping. First off, I'd rather pay $100 and have it be free shipping. So I guess I could get my hands on one of these for $100 right now. It's pretty sick. Doesn't look much like him, but it's a very good, like, Nike shirt. He's sitting on the throne. Like it's good. It's good. I prefer to like trade for one, but I guess there is going to be an eBay option. Can we see the one and done ownership? Yeah. So again, this is projected ownership. It is not official. Or I guess technically it is official, but it's for the site wide. It's not necessarily for any one exact thing. So Ricky 25%, no surprise. He's been there all week. Hideki 12, Tom Kim 10, JT 8, Tony 6. Obviously, I'm playing Tony Finau in this one, but this is a family and friends one, so it doesn't really give you much information. Brian Harman, Cam Davis, Sung J M, the rest of the guys barely above 5%. Snoopaloop has 347 bobbleheads. I'm super jealous of that, actually. I probably had 150 at one point. And I wish I had all of them. I want all of them. So there is God, where is it? Is it Anaheim? Does Angel Stadium? There is a baseball stadium, and I cannot remember where it is. It might be Angel Stadium that has, I don't think it's like a bobblehead Hall of Fame, but they've got like a ton of bobbleheads. Is it Angel Stadium? I was there. My dad was there. Where would we have been? Angel Stadium? Dodger Stadium? I think it's Dodger Stadium, actually, which is sick. I wanted to take all of them home. That's what I want. In addition to the Ryder and President's Cups, I think America should play against the rest of the world twice a decade. The world team chooses the venue, but we play in America. Interesting. Out on Harris English, 1, because I was already out on him, and 2, because he withdrew. I think Aaron Rye's good, not great. There was a lot of Aaron Rye questions, I think. And I don't know if I want to be part of like a 15% Aaron Rye. Answered these, which is nice. Answered the one and done. Answered the Alex Small. We did the 125 proximities. Okay. I always get worried when we're way behind, but then this always happens. Rick, on Monday, why don't you take the leaderboard results and show, analyze, say the top 20, see what they did right versus strokes gained? Great question, Michael. Historically, admittedly, the review stuff, I think there's a big gap. If you want to get into golf analysis, be the review guy, right? There is a multi-billion-dollar industry on poker review. Be the DFS review guy. Be the golf review guy. Have at it. Have fun. I have done it in the past, Michael, and I didn't think it was all that like people don't really care. I don't know if the industry has shifted. I tried. That's why I also try to do it in the in my newsletter. Is I try to, the first half of it, I try to do a couple of things from the previous week, things of that nature, and then I go to the the current week. But there is definitely a big opportunity there. The only problem with some of these questions is like I don't have a thought on every single player in the field. I don't know if this is real or not. Hey, Rick, big fan. Swear I saw you deadlifting 400 pounds at the gym the other day. Didn't want to bother you, but you're looking strong. Keep up the good work. I don't know if I'm being trolled or not. I was not deadlifting 400 pounds. I do deadlift at the gym. Depends on where you were. But I'm pretty sure I'm being trolled. Either way, you can always say hi. Even if we're at the gym, Beefcake. You can come say hi. So I'm pretty sure I'm getting trolled, but that's funny. Yeah. So Vegas Flushers has taken on that's my season-long team. Yes, they should be flushed down the toilet. My team stinks. I've gotten nothing out of my first 2 draft picks. About what time do the last ownership projections come out? Depends on the week and depends on how much movement there is. So Mike Cavalunas does it, and I would say sometime Wednesday night. He just did one that was about an hour ago, maybe 2 hours ago, and I imagine there'll be one more tonight. Yes, so I am aware that Marlins Park has a big display of bobbleheads. I've never been there though, so it's not where I saw it. I think there's also a smaller, and I say small because there's probably 2,000 bobbleheads there. I think it's a Dodger Stadium. I was there with my dad. It was either Dodger Stadium or Angel Stadium. I've never been to Marlins Park, or maybe it was a minor league park. I don't know. It was recently, last couple of years. So yeah. How much of a sicko play is Cam Champ this week? Super sick. Yeah, I don't think that's the guy. All right. I answered all these for the most part. If you have any more questions, thank you. I don't know what to say. We have a Jock Market Power Hour tonight. Jock Market is doing awesome stuff with stock market DFS and props, and now they have a Jock Pot and all this stuff. Check it out tonight, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. Otherwise, sign up for the newsletter. It's literally free, and it has like a lot of the stats and a lot of the questions that get asked here. The other thing is also sign up for RickRunGood.com. Also subscribe to the channel, I guess. Do all the stuff that like most people usually ask for. Just do that stuff, and then I'll be happy. But I think you'll be happy too. All right. Goodbye.